Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today's video is for all of you college football fans out there that follow the channel, because we're going to be discussing all the Saturday action that was week number 6 in the world of college football. But before I get into it, I got to send out a couple of more quick shout outs. My first shout out goes out to my man Stan, who subscribed to the channel yesterday. He is a Alabama fan and he is a Braves fan, and he also likes Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods in golf, and he told me to take it easy on his Alabama team today, because I told him that today's video was going to be about college football. So Stan, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you watch the video, you will learn pretty quickly that it's obvious I'm a Clemson fan, but I'm not a Clemson homer, and this is not a Clemson channel. I try to be honest and call things like I see them about everybody. There's teams that I don't like, but I talk good about them because they deserve it. There's teams that I do like, but I talk bad about them because they deserve it. So I try to be honest. My next shout out goes out to my man Daniel, who is a Clemson fan. He wanted me to say go Tigers. He is a Clemson fan, but he said he likes all the teams in South Carolina except for the Gamecocks. So Daniel, thank you so much for subscribing as well. And one final shout out goes out to my man Buddy, who also subscribed to the channel yesterday, and my man Mike, who, if you follow the channel, you'll recall that Mike won our 500 subscriber giveaway. Mike is a Georgia Tech fan, so Mike will be happy to know that Buddy subscribed to the channel yesterday, and he is a Georgia Tech fan. So now we have at least 2 Georgia Tech fans here on the channel, which is about how many they get in their stadium on a college football Saturday. No, I'm just playing. Buddy, thank you so much for subscribing, and I hope all of you enjoy today's video. If you have any thoughts on any of the action from Saturday in the world of college football, please let me know. I would say that if I was a betting man, this would have been the weekend that I could have won some money, but I don't bet, never have, never will. But there's some weekends where you think you know what's going to happen, and then nothing you thought ended up happening. And then there's those weekends where you predict stuff and it seems like everything you predicted happened. Well, this was that weekend for me. I believe I even said in my video on Friday that JT Daniels probably wasn't going to play, but it didn't matter. Auburn might score 10, but Georgia would score 30 plus, and sure enough, Auburn scored exactly 10, and Georgia scored 30 plus. So there was nothing to me out of the ordinary in that game to talk about. The only thing Georgia has to decide, and I know I've mentioned this already, but I'll go ahead and mention it again, is the fact that we know, anybody knows, whether you want to admit it or not, that JT Daniels just cannot stay healthy. He can't. It's not meant to be a jab at him or a shot at him. Some people's bodies just don't allow them to do what they want to do, and JT Daniels just can't stay healthy. So Georgia has to decide what they're going to do, because obviously he's going to be out for a while. He's not even practicing now, so they have no intention of him coming back anytime soon, which is fine. They're way better than everybody they're playing the rest of the season. If Georgia loses a game, it ain't because JT didn't play, it's because Georgia laid an egg. When you're favored by 20 points in games, even without JT Daniels, then it shows how much better you are than the other team. So if you lose, it's not because JT didn't play, you just laid an egg. But if you don't bring JT back and you wait until playoff time to bring him back, well, you're talking about a guy that ain't practiced or anything in 2.5 months. So it's basically going to be like him going through summer camp, summer workouts all over again. But if you do bring him back later on in the season, let's say Charleston Southern game or whoever it is before you play Georgia Tech, or the Georgia Tech game, Well, with JT's luck, he's probably going to get hurt again before the playoffs. So that's the only dilemma Georgia's going to have. But right now, Georgia's fine. And then the Ole Miss Arkansas game, my friend Eric, that I'm always talking about, him and I usually chat on the phone at least one day a week. He called me, I think, on Thursday and asked me who I thought was going to win between Arkansas and Ole Miss. And I said, Ole Miss. And sure enough, they won by 1 point because Arkansas scored as time expired and decided to go for two instead of going to overtime. Didn't get it. Ole Miss won the game. But the only reason I thought Ole Miss would win the game was just because after only scoring 21 points against Bama, I thought Lane Kiffin was out on a mission. He was going to show the world how good Matt Corral was and how good that Ole Miss offense was because he just cost them way too many points against Bama. And I didn't think Arkansas could outscore Ole Miss, but I never thought they would score 51 points. So there was no defense on either side of the ball at all in that game. And then the Oklahoma and Texas game, a lot of people thought Texas would win. But I thought Oklahoma would win. But I'm not going to lie. The first 5 minutes I thought, boy, I was wrong in that game. Because Oklahoma got off to just a dreadful start. And they got way behind. They were getting destroyed. And then Lincoln Riley ended up benching Spencer Rattler. And a freshman named Caleb Williams came in. And he looked good. So now I'm just interested to see if they stick with Williams in the next game. Or if they go back to Rattler. Because if you recall, last year Rattler lost his job, and then he got benched, and then came back a couple weeks later, and he looked fine. And he got better and better as the year went on. And for whatever reason this year, he just hasn't been impressive. So if Lincoln Riley goes back to him, then obviously he's still got confidence in him. Maybe he just can't handle the big stage. Some people just can't handle the big stage. But they might stick with Caleb Williams. He didn't do anything to lose the job. But Oklahoma's defense looked so bad in that game on Saturday that there was no way they were going to win that game by scoring 30 points. They were going to have to score 50-plus in order to win. And sure enough, Texas put up 48. So Oklahoma had to score 50-plus in order to win that game. And it did not look like with Rattler they were going to score 50-plus points. And then the Iowa-Penn State game was amazing. I think Iowa had like 315 yards of total offense and only scored 23 points. But their defense is so dominant, that's about all they need because they've scored 78 points in 6 games on turnovers, which is 13 points a game. So basically they get 2 touchdowns a game because of their defense forcing so many turnovers. So Iowa might have 300 yards of offense, but they might put up 30 points. They lead the nation in interceptions since 2017. So they don't just have a great defense. Their defense forces turnovers. So they're playing really good football right now. Penn State's quarterback, Sean Clifford, got hurt. But I actually think the backup got better as the game progressed. And I actually think he's got more upside than Clifford does. He just doesn't have much experience of note. I mean, he played some against Villanova, but as far as meaningful snaps, he didn't have any. But, of course, last year the backup was Will Levis, who, of course, is transferred to Kentucky because this day and time no quarterback wants to be a backup, so he transferred to Kentucky. So the backup now is Roberson. But he got better, but you can tell he's still not quite ready. But like I said, he has more potential upside, in my opinion, than Sean Clifford does. Sean Clifford looked great as a freshman, and he's just never improved. He's the same quarterback now he was 2 years ago. But LSU is flat out awful. I'll be totally stunned if Ed Orgeron makes it through the season. There's no doubt in my mind he gets fired after the season. I don't see any way he saves his job now because LSU has all but quit. I know I said in Friday's video that I thought Kentucky would win, and I wanted Kentucky to win because I think this is the 3rd time maybe in their history they've been 6-0. So I just want to see how long they can keep winning, and I thought Kentucky would win, but that game at one time was just absolutely terrible. I mean, LSU looked like they just stayed at home. It was awful. So they've all but quit. And when a team all but quits, that falls on the coach. So unless they win out, I just don't see any way Ed Orgeron keeps his job. North Carolina lost again. I only bring that up because of the fact they were supposed to be a top 10 team, and I said they were overrated, but I might have gave them too much credit. I thought they were an 8-win team. I'm not sure they're a 6-win team. Wake Forest still undefeated. They squeaked out an ugly win over Syracuse. Of course, I say ugly win, but in the eyes of most players and coaches, there's no such thing as an ugly win because you take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day of the week. So Wake Forest is still undefeated. That's always good to see as well. I'm a huge fan of their quarterback and their head coach. I think Dave Clawson is one of the most, if not the most, underrated coaches in all of college football. Alabama lost. Now, I am surprised by the fact they lost to Texas A&M because A&M has looked so bad this year. But if you follow the channel, I said before the season started, when I did my 4 playoff predictions, I did not put Alabama in the playoffs. And the only reason I bring that up is because, yes, I put Clemson in the playoffs, and I was wrong about that. But people are going to tell me that I was wrong about that, but they're not going to acknowledge the fact that I was right about other stuff. They only want to bring up what you were wrong about. And I said before the season started that Alabama is not Alabama this year. They would have at least 2 losses, and that's why I did not put them in the playoffs. So I was surprised that they lost to A&M because of how bad A&M's looked. But overall, I was not surprised by the loss. I still think they'll lose somewhere. Their defense this year is just not as good as Bama's defenses usually are, and their running game is not as deep as their running back game usually is, and that's why I picked them to lose at least 2 games this year and not make the college football playoff. I'm not going to talk about where they're ranked right now because tomorrow here on the channel we're going to be talking about the new AP poll. So if you have any thoughts on the AP poll, go ahead and let me know what they are, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. And of course, I'll give you my top 10 as well. We know mine changes every week. I don't base mine on a team name or a team's tradition or what they did last year, what they might do next year. I base mine on a week-to-week basis by how good you played that weekend. So every time I do the AP Top 10, I give you my top 10 as well, and we'll be doing that tomorrow here on the channel. And since we're talking so much college football right now, Wednesday's video, which as you know by now, every Wednesday is a different top 10 countdown, and this week's top 10 countdown is also going to be college football based. We'll find out what that is coming up here on the channel on Wednesday. Ohio State is slowly starting to turn it around. I know early in the season they struggled. Even the wins they got, they struggled. But the last 2 weeks, their offense has gotten better and better, and their defense is slowly starting to get better. So it slowly looks like Ohio State is evolving into what they were supposed to be this year, but they just were not that when the year started. And BYU lost, and the only reason I bring that up is because a couple of weeks ago I talked about how many undefeated teams there were, and a lot of people wanted to see them remain undefeated, and I did too, just because of the fact they were, up there at the time. They were like, I think 13th, but this week they were 10th, and they lost, so that's another undefeated team that's no longer undefeated. And it continues to amaze me how many people just absolutely refuse to give Cincinnati any credit. But don't surprise me, because before the season started, I said there's always going to be those people that no matter what a team does, no matter how good they look, there's always going to be those people that just refuse to change their opinion and will not give a team credit. And Cincinnati was so good last year, and it took everything Georgia had to beat them in that bowl game. It's not like Georgia beat them 75-10. That was a good game that come down to the wire, and Georgia had to do everything they could to win that game. And Cincinnati brings back virtually the same team, the same coach, the same coaching staff, and they're beating the brakes off everybody. And so many people still say, oh, they're not any good. If people just don't see by now how good they are, they're just not going to admit it. Some people, they get their heart and their mind set on something, and no matter what, they will not change their mind. The Bearcats could win 5 straight national titles, and they still gonna say they're not any good. People like that, there's no sense in talking to them because you're not gonna change their mind. That's what they feel, and they're just always gonna be wrong. So people like that, don't waste your time talking to them. They're not gonna change their mind. And I know I've said before that I listen and watch pretty much all the sports stuff I can. I don't watch a certain channel. I don't watch a certain team because obviously if you watch a certain team, no matter who that team is, no matter what the sport is, the announcers and the pregame people and all that are always going to be favoring, that team or whoever they're playing that day. So I try to get, points of views from everybody, no matter who it is. It don't mean I like that team. It just means I try to take in all the useless sports knowledge that I can. That's just the way I am. Everybody else has their passion. Mine is sports. So I love all the sports stuff that I can get. And the other day, I think it was Thursday, I heard on the radio that UConn was selling football tickets for $5. And I thought, that is sad. And it really is. So you think about that. So no matter who you pull for, and no matter how bad you might think they are, it could always be worse. I can go to my local high school junior varsity team and watch a high school game, and it costs $6. So I can go to a UConn Husky football game for cheaper than I can go to a high school JV game. That tells you how bad UConn has fallen, because just 10 years ago they were a top 10 team playing Oklahoma in a BCS bowl, and they've fallen that far. I know they said before the year started that they would probably be one of the worst 5 teams in FBS football, but I think it's clear they're the worst. They are absolutely abysmal. And of course earlier this year they got destroyed by somebody, and I don't recall now who it was, but it was somebody that was just flat out terrible. And Randy Edsall, who of course left UConn to go to Maryland, and that didn't work, so he came back to UConn. After that loss, he said end of the season he was retiring because he realized how bad they were. The AD went ahead and told him, you can leave now. So they replaced Randy Edsall, who was the only coach they've ever had that won with them. So UConn is just flat out pitiful. So no matter who you pull for, no matter how bad you think it might be, you could be paying $5 to go watch your college football team play. When you do that, then you can say your team officially sucks. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I don't know if this is a scam, but I just received a text saying that I'd won $250 in cash or tickets to an Elvis tribute show. It said, press 1 for the money, 2 for the show. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.